We said that when a router is listening to one of these MAC addresses, it's going to be ready to step in and handle data sent to that particular MAC address if the active router for that address goes down. Let's test that right now. Let's go over to router 3, and this is what I love about a lab environment. We'll just do a shutdown. And we saw some state changes there very quickly. Let's see how quickly we see them over here. It's still listening, and there we go. That didn't take long. There are GLBP state change messages. Just took about, say, 10 seconds, because that's our default hold time. Hello's 3, hold time 10. And we got a state change, group 10, standby to active, and also a state change, a forwarder state change. Notice the slight difference here, because that first line is talking about the AVG status. That this route, this interface has gone from standby to active because it's lost it hasn't heard from the previous AVG, which was router 3. So we got a state change message there. Then right after that, we got a forwarder state change, and you can see group 10, forwarder 1, state listen to active. So a lot going on there. Let's run that brief command, and you can see the change here. You can look at this and tell immediately when you see local, local, local under active router that this router is handling everything right now. The forwarder numbers don't change, the priorities didn't change, anything like that. But you can see now that where router 1 was listening to the MAC address ending in 01, it's now handling the traffic for that particular MAC address. So that MAC address doesn't go up in smoke or anything like that. What happens is that one of the other forwarders in the group will step in and take that load over. So let's go back to router 3. Just do a no shut, and then I'll head back over to 1. Don't know if this will be as fast or not, but they'll start communicating here shortly. And I'll just wait till we get a message. And actually, I just paused the video for about 10 or 15 seconds there, then ran show GLBP brief again, and you can see that listen and active had gone back, and router 3 has taken back over in the role of the AVG, and you can see those state change messages that we were getting. Boy, when you go to the microseconds on those timestamps, the messages do get long. But you can see group state 10 for state change, that's referring to the AVG. It went from active to speak, and then active to listen on the forwarder, on the forwarder change. So let's run that command now. And now it's gone from speak to standby, which is what we expect, and it's going to stop in standby mode. So that's what happens when one of our routers goes away, and in that case it was our AVG. Now let's say we wanted, actually before we do that, let's run show GLBP and walk through that. Now, that's a lot of info on your screen. State is standby. It's going to give you group 10 information. This is on router 1. You know, you want to watch your state changes because in a production network that really shouldn't be happening very often. It's kind of like SPF recalculations in OSPF. If this keeps incrementing, there's a problem somewhere. It's going to tell you what the virtual IP address is, what your hello and hold timers are. We know those defaults. Preemption is disabled. It's going to tell you who the active router is, and again, that's the AVG, what the priority of that router is. It tells you what standby is, who the standby is. In this case, it's us. Priority of 100 is default, waiting, we're not getting into in this particular course. Load balancing, round robin. Notice the group members, and here it actually lists the physical MAC addresses of the routers in the group, of the interfaces in the group. It's not going to list the virtual MAC addresses here. It's going to tell you how many forwarders you've got, and here's forwarder 1, state is listen, etc., and we know forwarder 2, state is active. And there's the MAC address, the owner ID, etc. So a lot of information in there, but a couple things you won't see with show GLBP brief. You do get the load balancing. It's going to tell you what that is, whether preemption is enabled or disabled. And speaking of that kind of thing, let's go ahead and clear that screen. Let's say that we are not happy with the default election process here for the AVG, and router 3 got picked basically at that point because it has a higher IP address, because the priorities were the same. Let's say then that we want to make router 1 the AVG, and we're going to do that by raising its priority. And let's see, GLBP 10. We've got priority here, and we're going to raise that to 150. And notice this doesn't have the preempt option at the end. This is something you should be used to with HSRP as well, because this is a recent iOS, but it's making me put the preempt command on another line. I bump into that with HSRP as well, where you have to put it on a separate line. Some iOSs will let you put it at the end of the priority command and as a separate command. So just be prepared to do either. So you've got GLBP priority 150. And when I put that in, you'll notice that ain't nothing happening. So let's run show GLBP brief. And you can see that even though we raised the priority to 150, as far as the AVG goes, router 1 is still in standby because we didn't do the preempt. So we've got to do that. VRRP is the only one out of these three protocols we're discussing here where preempt is a default setting. So we will do GLBP 10, and then it's simply preempt. And let's see what happens now. Let's do a, yep, got a message there already. And you can see that now the local router has taken over as active. There's .10, active router is local, standby router unknown. The message was state change. We know that's referring to the AVG from standby to active. And that is it. So with show GLBP brief there, now that you're totally familiar with what they're talking about here, and I just want to go over that one more time because it's very important. The first line again is referring to information about the active virtual gateway itself, and the other lines, anything with a number under FWD, is talking about the forwarders in this particular group. So GLBP, that's about it for our GLBP information for right now. I know you'll run into more of that in future studies, but this is definitely enough to get you started and definitely more than enough to prepare you for success on exam day. So let's head to the next section. I'll see you there.